The political map of America is being redrawn right now, and by the time most people figure out what happened, it'll be too late to change it. I'm not talking about the 2026 election. I'm not talking about polls or approval ratings or campaign ads. I'm talking about something that happens in back rooms, in state legislatures, on computers running millions of simulations per hour, something that decides who wins before a single ballot is cast. And in 2025, it just went further than it's ever gone before. If you've ever walked into a voting booth and felt like your vote didn't actually matter, I need you to stay with me for the next 10 minutes. Because you weren't being paranoid. You were seeing something real. But before we dive in, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button and leave a comment. I subscribe. And I'll personally welcome you into the family. With that said, let's get started. Section 1. What is redistricting? Here's the thing most people don't realize. Every 10 years, after the census, the political district maps get redrawn. Every congressional district, the ones that determine who represents you in Washington, gets its borders reset. And here's the part that changes everything. In most states, those maps are drawn by the state legislature, meaning the politicians already in power decide where the lines go. You see the problem. A Princeton gerrymandering project study from 2022 found that manipulated maps gave one party up to a 26-seat advantage in the House before a single vote was cast. 26 seats. Gone. Before the campaign even starts. Before the first debate. Before the first ad. That's not a close election. That's a controlled outcome. But here's what changed in 2025. The informal rules, the political norms that kept this from getting too extreme, they just got thrown out entirely. I want you to meet Maria Delgado, 58 years old, factory worker from Reading, Pennsylvania. She voted in every election since 1988. Presidential races, midterms, local primaries. If there was a ballot, Maria cast one. She believed in it. She'd raise her kids to believe in it. Then came 2023. Her congressional district was redrawn, and her neighborhood, a majority Latino community that had sent the same representative to Congress for 12 years, was quietly sliced apart. Her block went into one district. Her sister street went into another. Her church, 3 blocks away, ended up in a third. 3 separate districts. One community. 0 collective voice. She told a local reporter, "I vote. My neighbors vote, but it's like screaming into a wall now." Maria's story isn't unusual. It's not even the worst example. It's just the most human one. And what's about to happen, what's already in motion, makes Maria's story look like a warm-up act. The plan, let's be specific, because this isn't theory. There are executive memos, court filings, and strategy documents that lay out exactly what's being attempted. 3 moves, 3 ways the map gets rewritten. Move 1, a push to add a citizenship question to the census. Sounds administrative. It isn't. The Urban Institute ran the numbers in 2023 and found this single change could lead to an undercount of up to 8 million people, concentrated in immigrant-heavy urban areas. Fewer people counted means fewer people represented. Fewer representatives means fewer districts. And fewer districts means less political power for those communities. Permanently. Move 2, mid-decade redistricting. This is the one that breaks the rule everyone thought was unbreakable. Traditionally, maps are redrawn once per decade, but Republican-controlled legislatures in multiple states are now arguing they can redraw maps anytime, especially after a court strikes one down. That creates an endless loop. Draw a map, get it struck down, draw another one, repeat until the decade runs out. The Harvard Law Review called mid-decade redistricting in 2024 a constitutional stress test with no clear precedent. Move 3, judicial capture. This one's slower, less visible, appointing federal judges, specifically in the circuit courts that hear redistricting appeals, who have already ruled in favor of partisan map drawing. Build the bench, then use it. In North Carolina, a redrawn map in 2023 flipped the congressional delegation from a 7-7 split to a projected 11-3 Republican advantage. Not because voters changed their minds, because the lines moved. North Carolina is the test case. 7 more states are already running the same play. The 7 states: Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Texas. Notice anything about that list? Those are the exact states that decided 2020. The exact states that were closest in 2024. This is not a coincidence. The Brennan Center for Justice released a report in early 2025 with a finding that should stop you cold. It proposed maps in just 4 of these 7 states are approved as drawn. The Republican Party would hold a structural majority in the House of Representatives through 2034, regardless of how the national popular vote swings. Let that land. You could have an election where Democrats win 5 million more votes nationwide and still lose the House. Not because of the Electoral College, not because of the Senate, because of lines drawn on a map years in advance. That's not democracy. That's engineering. And the last time maps were used this aggressively to reshape political power, historians keep pointing to the same era, post-Reconstruction America, when redistricting was used specifically, deliberately, to erase black political power that had just been constitutionally granted. Historians are making that comparison again. Today, about maps being drawn right now, the Supreme Court, here's where it gets legally complicated and critically important. In 2019, the Supreme Court decided a case called Rucho versus Common Cause. The vote was 5-4. The ruling: federal courts cannot intervene in partisan gerrymandering cases. Chief Justice Roberts wrote that partisan gerrymandering claims present political questions beyond the reach of federal courts. Translation: draw whatever map you want for political advantage, and no federal judge can stop you. Legal scholars called it a blank check. Think about what that actually means. You can engineer a congressional map to guarantee one-party control for an entire decade, and the federal judiciary has officially stepped aside. The referees left the building. Now, 14 states have tried to build a different system, independent redistricting commissions, where politicians aren't the ones drawing the lines. California, Colorado, Michigan. These maps consistently score higher on nonpartisan fairness metrics. They're not perfect, but they're measurably less rigged. But here's the part nobody's talking about. Independent commissions are now under direct legal and legislative attack, and the strategy being used to dismantle them is something very few people predicted. James Okafor is 34. He teaches high school civics in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. For 2 years, he made redistricting a core part of curriculum. He figured if his students understood how power actually worked, they'd be harder to manipulate. He wasn't wrong. In 2024, the Wisconsin state legislature passed a new congressional map. James ran his own nonpartisan analysis, the kind he teaches his students to do. What he found: 91% of Milwaukee's black voters had been packed into just 2 of the state's 8 congressional districts. Packed them in tight. Waste their votes on landslide margins. Spread everyone else out thin enough to flip districts. It's called packing and cracking, and it's as old as a country. He brought the printed maps into class. A 16-year-old girl studied them for a while, looked up and said, "Mr. Okafor, this is just Jim Crow with a computer." He didn't know what to say, because she was right. James testified before the Wisconsin State Assembly. He brought data, methodology, peer review. He was given 4 minutes. The map passed anyway. He's now training voters across 3 counties to read these maps themselves, because he learned something that took him too long to figure out. Understanding the map is how you fight the map. The technology. Wait, I need to pause here, because there's a layer to this that most coverage completely misses. They're using artificial intelligence to draw these maps now. This isn't a metaphor. It's not an exaggeration. Software tools, successors to the original Red Map program that Republicans deployed in 2010, can now run millions of map simulations in a matter of hours. Each simulation is optimized for partisan outcomes, while technically staying within the legal guardrails. A study from Duke University, published in the journal Science Advances in 2022, found that AI-optimized maps can deliver partisan advantages 2.5 times greater than traditional hand-drawn gerrymandering. 2.5 times. This isn't a guy in a back room with a pencil anymore. This is a machine specifically designed to make your vote mathematically relevant, running legally, in the open, in state capitals across the country. But here's what that same technology has made possible for regular people. Dave's Redistricting app, free, public, and lets you see exactly how your district is shaped. The Princeton Gerrymandering Project grades every state's maps on a transparent fairness scale. A through F, Represent Us District Tracker, follows legal challenges in real time. The same computation that makes gerrymandering more powerful also makes it more visible. Use that. But even knowing all of this, even using every tool available, there's one move that can override it all, and it's accelerating. The end game, 2026. The 2026 midterms are the first real test of how far this has gone. If the current wave of redrawn maps survives legal challenge, and based on current circuit court trajectories, most analysts think it will. 538's redistricting model, updated in March 2025, categorizes this cycle as the most predetermined midterm environment since 1812. That's not a typo. A minimum projected structural advantage of 15 seats in the House, before a single campaign event, before a single dollar of advertising, before a single candidate debate. Think about what passes through the House. Healthcare legislation, climate and energy bills, military authorization, Social Security adjustments, the budget of the United States government, all of it flowing through a chamber whose composition was determined not by voters, but by mapmakers working years in advance. Now, here's what's actually working against this. 4 legal challenges are currently active in federal circuit courts, and while Rucho blocked federal intervention on partisan grounds, some of these challenges are rooted in racial discrimination, which the federal courts can still address. More importantly, 2 state Supreme Courts, Wisconsin and New Mexico, have already struck down gerrymandered maps as unconstitutional under state constitutions. Rucho only covers federal courts. State courts can still act, and increasingly they are. 6 states currently have active ballot initiative campaigns to establish independent redistricting commissions. If voters in those states pass them, the pen gets taken away from the politicians. Permanently. Here's what you can do right now. First, go to gerrymander.princeton.edu and look up your district's grade. Takes 2 minutes. Genuinely alarming. Second, if your state has an active redistricting ballot initiative, that's the highest leverage place your energy can go right now. Not a candidate, not a party, a structural fix. Third, most redistricting processes include public comment periods that almost no one participates in. Find your state's timeline and show up. An empty hearing room is a gift to whoever's drawing the lines. But the single most powerful thing, most people don't even know it exists. The closer, the maps are built on census data. Everything, every district, every line, every calculation, starts with who gets counted in the census. In 2020, Republican-leaning counties had a 5.3% higher response rate than Democratic-leaning urban counties. That data comes directly from the U.S. Census Bureau. 5.3%. That gap, those missing forms, those unanswered doors, directly shape the maps we're living under today. The most powerful redistricting tool in America isn't a lawsuit. It isn't a march. It isn't even a vote. It's a form most people threw in the trash. The 2030 census begins serious outreach in 2028. That's the window. That's where the next decade of American political power gets decided. And remember Maria Delgado, back in Reading, Pennsylvania, whose district got carved apart. She filled out her 2020 census form. Her neighbors on her block mostly didn't. That gap, those missing responses, they're part of why her district looks the way it does today. This is a part of the story that never makes the news. The quiet, unglamorous, unsexy act of filling out a government form, and what it costs when millions of people don't. So here's what I need you to sit with. Is redistricting a legitimate political strategy? Hardball, yes, but legal? Or is it something that's quietly dismantling the foundation of what a vote is supposed to mean? Because honest people, legal scholars, political scientists, former judges, genuinely disagree on where that line is. And I think you should decide for yourself, with the real information, not the spin. Drop your state in the comments right now. I'll reply with your district's actual Princeton gerrymandering project grade, the real letter grade. the real methodology, exactly what it means for your representation. Let's see how rigged your map really is. And if this video gave you something your social media feed never would, share it with one person who votes. Just one, because the people who benefit from you staying confused about this, they're counting on you not doing that.